Attention passionate Detroit Lions fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Detroit Lions' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Detroit Lions fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Detroit Lions fans. Let's get to the news now, folks. If you've been paying attention to the NFL landscape, you know that the Detroit Lions have been quietly building something special over the past few seasons. This franchise, once seen as perennial underdogs, has transformed into a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and the buzz around Allen Park is louder than ever. The recent offseason moves, the development of their young core, and strategic additions have all pointed towards a team that's not just content with playoff appearances, but is aiming for the ultimate prize, the Lombardi Trophy. But as you know, in the NFL, the difference between a good team and a great team often comes down to one thing: the ability to make bold moves, especially in the trade market, and to add the right veteran pieces to push you over the edge. And this brings us to a hot topic that's been making waves across the NFL community. There's a real possibility that the Detroit Lions could be eyeing a blockbuster deal that involves one of the league's most talented pass rushers, Trey Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, you heard that right. ESPN recently floated a trade proposal that could see Hendrickson don the Honolulu blue and silver. And if this happens, it could completely alter the division dynamics and bolster Detroit's Super Bowl aspirations. Think about it, a player of Hendrickson's caliber leading the league in sacks last season paired with Aiden Hutchinson, one of the most promising young stars in the league. That's a duo that could redefine what a dominant pass rush looks like in the NFL. Now let's dig into why this makes so much sense for Detroit. First, the Lions, after cutting ties with Zadarius Smith earlier this offseason, definitely have a need along their edge rush. Sure, they might have some promising young players, but adding a veteran like Hendrickson would immediately elevate their pass rush to elite status. Hendrickson isn't just a sack artist, he's a relentless edge rusher with a motor that never stops, someone who can bring pressure on almost every play. Pairing him with Hutchinson, who's already established himself as a force on the other side, would make the Lions' defense not only stingy but downright terrifying for opposing quarterbacks. And let's talk about what the trade might look like. ESPN's hypothetical proposal suggests that Detroit could send Cincinnati a second-round pick in 2026 and a fourth-round pick in 2027, which could even become a third-rounder if certain performance conditions are met. For the Bengals, it's a reasonable package, especially considering Hendrickson's age. He's just 29 and his contract situation. The Bengals, who are in a bit of a rebuild mode after some recent struggles, could use the draft capital to build depth elsewhere, and a second-rounder for a player of Hendrickson's caliber is a solid return. But why would the Lions be willing to part with draft picks and allocate cap space for Hendrickson? Well, that's where the bigger picture comes in. Detroit's general manager, Brad Holmes, has been very cautious about big financial commitments, especially after the team's recent cap management strategies. Still, he's also shown a willingness to be aggressive when the opportunity aligns with their Super Bowl window. Holmes has acknowledged that the fan base desires a secondary edge rusher, but he's also realistic about the team's cap situation. However, Hendrickson's impact could be a game changer, and he's proven to be an elite pass rusher over the past 2 seasons, leading the league in sacks last year and racking up more sacks than any other player during that period. Imagine a scenario where Hendrickson joins the Lions, and the duo of him and Hutchinson becomes one of the most feared pass-rushing tandems in the NFL. That would undoubtedly help Detroit's defense become more disruptive and unpredictable, making life miserable for opposing quarterbacks. And we all know how much that can tilt the field in favor of the Lions' offense, which has been steadily improving under Jared Goff and his talented receiving core. Plus, with the Lions being serious Super Bowl contenders, it makes sense to go all in while the window is still open. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. What about the financial side? Hendrickson, after leading the league in sacks last year and being a consistent producer, would command a hefty contract. Reports indicate that he turned down a Bengals offer that would have paid him around $28 million annually, signaling that he's looking for something closer to the upper echelon of NFL pass rushers, somewhere between $30 and $40 million per year. That's a significant investment, no doubt, but Detroit has enough cap space to make it happen if they choose to prioritize this move. The question is whether they see Hendrickson as a piece that can push them over the top or if they prefer to allocate resources elsewhere. And let's not forget, Hendrickson has already made it clear that he has no plans to play on his current deal in 2025 unless a new contract is in place. That means for Detroit or any other team interested, an extension is almost a necessity if they want to secure his services long-term. This adds a layer of complexity but also opportunity. If the Lions decide to go all in, they could negotiate a deal that benefits both sides, giving Hendrickson the security he desires and locking in a key piece for their Super Bowl run. Now, in the broader context, the Lions have been cautious but also strategic. They've built a team that's competitive now, with a solid offensive line, a dynamic running game led by Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and a passing attack anchored by Jared Goff, who's been playing some of the best football of his career. Their defense has made strides, but adding a premier pass rusher like Hendrickson would be the cherry on top, elevating their overall defensive performance to elite status. It's about creating a balanced team that can compete on all fronts and close out games against the best teams in the league. Of course, there are hurdles. The Lions would need to give up valuable draft capital, which could impact their depth in future seasons. Plus, the financial commitment to Hendrickson is not trivial. The team has to consider the salary cap implications, the long-term sustainability of such a move, and whether they believe Hendrickson is the final piece that can push them into serious Super Bowl contention. Some fans might worry about paying two huge contracts along the defensive line. Hutchinson is already on his rookie deal, but extending him will be a priority soon, and adding Hendrickson's salary could stretch their cap even further. But here's the thing, if the Lions are truly committed to winning now, they might have to be willing to gamble a little, throw caution to the wind, and make a move that signals to the rest of the league that they're all in. The NFL is a league of bold decisions, and sometimes those decisions define dynasties. Imagine a Detroit defense that terrorizes opponents in the upcoming season, with Hendrickson and Hutchinson leading the charge, backed by a secondary that's improving and a front office that's not afraid to make aggressive moves. Now, I want to highlight a couple of other related points that are worth considering. First, the Lions are in a very interesting position with their offensive line after Frank Ragnow's recent retirement. They'll need to reconfigure their line, potentially adding more depth or experience there, which might influence how much they're willing to allocate to defensive upgrades. Also, the recent cryptic posts from linebacker Alex Anzalone about contract uncertainties hint that the team is still navigating some financial decisions. These are all pieces of the puzzle that could influence whether or not a Hendrickson trade happens. And for the Bengals, getting a solid draft package could help them rebuild or add depth, especially if they're looking to develop younger players or fill other holes. But for Detroit, the opportunity to add a player like Hendrickson is rare. Not only does it strengthen their defense immediately, but it sends a message to the league and division rivals that the Lions are serious about competing at the highest level. Now, just to give you a quick historical perspective, the Lions have always been striving to shed their underdog reputation. Over the past decade, they've had their share of tough seasons, coaching changes, and roster rebuilds. But recently, under head coach Dan Campbell, they've adopted a mentality of toughness, resilience, and relentless pursuit of excellence. This kind of mindset is reflected in their approach to roster building: aggressive, strategic, and hungry. They've been making smart moves in free agency, drafting well, and developing their young stars. Adding a veteran like Hendrickson would be a natural extension of this philosophy, emphasizing their commitment to winning now and in the future. Looking ahead to the upcoming season, the NFC North is shaping up to be one of the most competitive divisions in football. The Minnesota Vikings have made some moves to bolster their roster, the Green Bay Packers are always dangerous with their young quarterback and revamped defense, and the Chicago Bears are in full rebuild mode, trying to find their identity. In that context, the Lions' potential acquisition of Hendrickson could give them that extra edge needed to dominate the division and make a serious playoff run. It's about setting a tone early and establishing themselves as the team to beat. As fans, we all love to dream about these big moves, but we also understand that NFL front offices are cautious and strategic. Still, the fact that ESPN has floated this trade idea shows there's real interest and real possibility. The Lions, with their cap space and roster talent, are in a position to pounce if they see this move as the one that can push them over the top. The next few months will be crucial as they evaluate their roster, cap situation, and whether they believe Hendrickson is the missing piece. In the end, whether or not this trade materializes, one thing is clear: the Detroit Lions are not just playing for the playoffs anymore. They're playing to win championships, and every move they make is with that goal in mind. The NFL is a league of momentum, and right now, the Lions are riding a wave of confidence and ambition. They've shown that they're not afraid to be aggressive, to take risks, and to make bold statements. This potential trade for Trey Hendrickson is just one example of that mindset: aiming high, thinking big, and doing whatever it takes to bring the Lombardi Trophy home to Detroit. So Lions fans, keep your eyes on this story. Stay tuned and get ready for what could be an exciting offseason filled with surprises. The future is bright, and with moves like this, Detroit could be on the cusp of something truly special. And remember, no matter what happens, we're all in this together, cheering for our team, dreaming big, and hoping to see the Lions finally claim that championship they've been chasing for so long. The journey continues, and it's going to be an incredible ride. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YouTube algorithm to keep recommending the latest Detroit Lions news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let us continue with the big reveal. And now, Detroit Lions fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this potential move for Trey Hendrickson? Do you think it's the right step to take? Would you be willing to see some draft capital go out the door if it meant upgrading your pass rush and boosting your Super Bowl chances? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Lions. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Detroit Lions news. This team is just getting started and the best is yet to come. Let's go Lions.